The first thing we need to do is add our dependencies for Dagger. Open your app modules build.gradle. We'll define a version variable since we have to import two dependencies, and then we'll add those in our dependencies block. Create a package called base, and in there add an interface called application component. This interface will have two annotations, the singleton annotation and the component annotation. The singleton annotation is a scope annotation, and that will be our only scope for this sample. Component tells the Dagger processor that this interface is a component. Next, in the networking package, create a class called network module. This will be our first Dagger module. We have to give it the module annotation, and we're essentially going to steal everything from our repo API class and put it in the module. So we'll copy our base URL constant, and then we'll create a provides method for our retrofit instance. Notice that we're using the provides annotation and the singleton annotation, and that just means that this will be used throughout the lifecycle of our app. We'll add abstract. This allows Dagger to do some optimizations and make our provide method static. We can just copy over what we already had for the retrofit builder, and we'll move the repo service creation logic into this module in a future video. Back in the application component, we'll add this module to the component annotation. And this just tells Dagger that when using this component, it can retrieve dependencies from this module. Now we need to make an application subclass. We'll just call it my application to be simple. This will extend the Android application class. And in the onCreate method, we're going to get a reference to the component implementation that Dagger generates for us. So you do have to run a build for that to show up. We'll add a field up here for the application component. We're going to expose it so other classes can get access to it. After running a build, you can get a reference to the component that Dagger generated by adding Dagger to the front of your component name. So that will turn ours into Dagger application component. And since our component doesn't need any manually added modules, we can just call .create. Lastly, we need a way for other classes to get a reference to this. So we'll create a static method that returns application component. We'll call it getApplicationComponent, and it will take in a context. And all we have to do here is call getApplicationContext, cast that to our myApplication class, and then call .component. So now any object can get a reference to this component using just a context. And finally, anytime you use an application subclass, you have to put that in the manifest, like this. Now we have our base Dagger framework set up. Next, we'll look into creating a view model factory, which will allow us to have injectable view models.